What's up, everybody? Are you tired of your drums sounding like this? And do you want them to sound like this? I'm Joe B, and I'm here to give you some drum tips and tricks in Ableton Live 11. Let's get right into it. There's 1,000 ways you can go about creating a beat in Ableton. That doesn't matter if you're doing hip hop, rap, like if you're doing rock, metal. There's a lot of ways to go about the drums. You create your own, you find your own sounds, you create your own kits. You can use samples, etc., etc. You can even hook up, mic up an actual drum set and record it live. So I'm just going to be doing like a hip hop style kind of beat, but I'm going to show you a few tips on how to spice your drums up. The first thing I want to go over is creating your own kit. First thing you want to do, open up a new MIDI track, click over here on drums. Now, in this drums tab, you're going to notice all these different kits here. These are pre-made kits that you can just drag in, and you will have a full kit ready to go. Kick, snare, you got hi-hat. I mean, you got it all. And there's a lot of good ones in here, don't get me wrong. Let's get rid of this. We're going to come over here, drag in this drum rack, and you're going to see it's completely blank. Collapse this. Now you're going to notice all of these different instruments, these different parts here. So you can build your own drum set. We'll start with the kick. So again, you just scroll down through here until you find a kick you like. There's some really crazy sounds in here. If you don't want to hear these previews, you just click this headphone icon. So once you find one you like, you're just going to drag that in. And then you've got all these different things to work with. You got snare, you got hi-hats, you got a lot of different sounds to choose from. So you can build your own drum rack, which is really awesome. I've already made a few of these myself, so I'm not going to go through this whole process of creating one. After you get your drum rack created, this is what you're going to do. You're going to actually save this project. So you're going to do File, Save As. You're going to name it whatever you want. Now, here's the thing. You need to place it wherever your templates are saved. Easy way to tell that, if you just right-click, and you'll have the default one saved automatically. So if you right-click this, click Show in Explorer, it's going to show you where your templates are saved. All right, easy peasy. So again, after you create your drum rack, File, Save As, name it whatever you want, save it, and you're going to see it over here in this template section. Now, this file, this is a whole project file. So if you double click this, it's going to reopen a whole new file. But if you collapse these, it's actually going to show you all of the tracks that you had saved within that project. So from here, say I open up a new project, I can just click here, drag this in, and then I've got the drum rack I used, and I even save some pre-made loops. So you can go ahead and record loops, save them in that project, and then you can just drag them in. So all I did was some basic, generic, couple different style of beats and just saved them. And this is also going to vary based on your BPM. I can speed it up, slow it down. So again, this just really adds to your efficiency when you really start getting into beats. And if you want to start doing this a lot more, this really can improve how many beats you're making, how efficient you are. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, and we're going to start a fresh beat here. Just going to highlight these here, and I'm going to stretch them out. This is a kit that I've already created here, which leads me to my second tip. If you're doing hip-hop stuff or really any stuff, again, separate your drums. Separate your kick, separate your snare, your hats, your crash, whatever it is you're going to be using. You don't always have to separate it, but if you want to manipulate just the kick, if you want to add reverb or compression to just the kick and you want to manipulate that sound differently than you would the snare, go ahead and separate those. And after you separate them, you have the option to group your tracks. So if I was to just come in here and insert a few new MIDI tracks, I can highlight both of these. If you want to highlight more than one, you can click one, hold shift, and however far over you go and click, it's going to highlight all those. Or if you click one, hold Control, and then click each individual one, it'll just highlight those. So I'm going to highlight these two. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to click Group tracks. Now these are within this group. Say I want to turn the overall volume down of all the drums within this group, this will control that. Or if I want to add a compressor, if I want to EQ them, this is a really efficient way to go about it. So one more thing about dragging in these existing templates that you've created. If you drag them in, they're going to be based on whatever kit you had those with. So after you build a beat, you can come over here to your drums, go back to your drum kits, and as I'm playing this, I can change the kit on the fly. So if I just bring this over, now it's based on this kit. A really cool tool. It's really fun to do once you build. All I have in this one is a kick and snare, but if you build it and you start changing the kits, you can get some really cool sounds, and you never know what you'll come across. So what I'm gonna do now is just build a basic beat, and then we're gonna go into some extra tips. All right, so I've created a really basic kick and snare pattern. And remember what I said before, we're gonna separate these two. I've already got this snare here, but I'm just gonna delete this, and I'm gonna duplicate the one I've already created, change the color, and then all I have to do is go to this one, get rid of the snare, go to this one, get rid of the kick. Now I've separated my kick from my snare. Easy. Now we're gonna add in some hi-hats. So now I've got a basic drum pattern with a kick, a snare, and some hi-hats. And I have them all separated. That way I can change the volume of each individual one. Also, I can stop these at any given time that I want. And remember, with this function up here, with the quantization, I've got it set to 1 bar. So anytime I start something or stop something, it's not gonna start or stop until the next bar. So if I turn one of these off, it's not gonna turn off until the next bar. And the same goes for starting it back up. All right, now that we've got a nice little pattern going here, where do we go from here? You could go ahead and start adding some instruments or, whatever you want to do. And you don't always got to start with drums. You can start with whatever you would like. You can start with a vocal, you can start with an instrument, a guitar. It doesn't matter. But now that we've got this basic pattern laid out, what's some more things we can do to spice it up? Here's my take on it. What you want to avoid when creating beats is having the same thing over and over and over and over. Sure, that's a nice little beat, but it's going to get stale really quick. You want to take your hats out or change your hats up or change your snare up. So an easy way to do that, so my snare is already just a 1 bar loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click this view again. You just have to click on your sample and you're going to see this view. So if I right click up here, I can duplicate this as many times as I want. I can stretch it out as many times as I want. So now I've got a 4 bar loop. What I can do is add like a roll at the end of these 4 bars. And an easy way to do this is if you just drag this over, now I'm just looping the 4th bar. So I don't have to listen to this whole thing every time just to figure out how to do the ending. All right, so now we've just added in like a little roll at the end of the 4 bars to just change up that single snare hit. You can change your velocities to make it seem like you're playing softer to louder. And then I can drag this back out. So now when I click play from the get-go, it's going to be 3 bars of this, and the last bar you're going to get a roll. You can do the same thing with your hi-hats. Or you could even duplicate it out and you can take out the hi-hats to where they'll stop playing automatically. So now we're going to add in a few extra instruments. So since we decided to take the hi-hats out in the third bar, all I did here was just add a couple effects. Reverse crash, a scratch. So if we don't want that same exact snare each time, we can just change these to another sound. So let's go back to our hi-hats. Right now we have this very basic hi-hat pattern going at the same velocity, and it's just kind of boring, right? I drew these notes in. So if I was actually playing this on the MIDI controller, if you have a touch sensitive MIDI controller, these velocities are going to be based on how hard you press the button. But you can always go back and manually change these. Change multiple at once, however you like to do it. If you've got multiple hi-hat sounds to use in your beat, why not switch it up a little? So let's take this spot right here, for instance. Let's change this into a roll and change the sound. So I'm actually going to draw these notes in on the other hi-hat spot, change the velocities a bit, and we'll see what we get. Another quick tip is if you right-click in the open space and you want more lines to divide up your notes, come here and you can click widest, wide, medium, and that'll set these lines the way you want. So now we've got somewhat of a pattern laid out. We've only got a 1-bar loop here with our kick. We've got a 4-bar loop here with our snare, and we alternated the snap and snare sound. We've got a 4-bar loop with our hats, and we've got a simple 4-bar loop that has a reverse crash and the scratch in it. So what we're going to do, since we've already got these guys armed and ready to go, we're going to go to our arrangement view and we're going to click record. Now I could let this play out the whole time, or I could stop it now, and all I got to do, enable these tracks, and all I'm going to do is just highlight these, and I'm just going to drag them out. When you see this tick mark, that is the end of the loop. So we can stretch this out as much as we'd like, as long as the track is, as long as we want to make it. What's really cool about this is now you can kind of spice up how you want to go about it. Do you want to take the snare out right here? Do you want to add the hi-hat here, etc.? A really quick tip, if you click anywhere in any of these lines and you click Control E, you're going to split it, which then allows you to drag from that point. And if I don't like the way I've laid something out, for instance, this scratch, I can actually shift that over 1 bar. Now it'll come in on the 4th bar. From this point, you're free to arrange the beat however you'd like. One more really quick trick I'd like to show you about your kick that I like to do in the arrangement view instead of the session view. So let's split our kick right here at the end of this 4-bar loop right here. So let's say I just take the kick out right here altogether. So in some beats, you hear a roll with your kicks. And I like to do it in this view. It just seems easier to me because all I have to do, I can split this, then I can highlight just this piece, pull it up, and it'll show me everything that's within that spot. So then I just have to draw my notes in. So after I've drawn these notes in, I'll start at the beginning of these 4 bars. Really neat little trick you can do to kind of spice things up, especially if you want to drop in your beats. There's so many ways to go about this. It's going to be up to you to just kind of find your own process. But again, creating your own drum racks, saving your own templates, and then just building your beat in the session view, coming over to the arrangement view, and then laying it all out the way you want, you can crank out beats in no time. All right, guys, hopefully there was some tips in there that helped you guys out. If you found anything useful, click that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, peace.